With that being said, we are jumping into game number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the deciders of N4C. The last chance for either of these players to get into the $100,000 N4C. On the left side, we'll have LucifroN playing as the blue Abbasids, and on the right side, we will have Kaio, the underdog, playing as the French in red. With me is Beasty, who has already bought his ticket to Berlin. How do you feel about this matchup?
Yeah, so I think French on this map is very, very good. You know, French want extremely open maps. They want to be able to harass their opponents, and Abbasid will most likely be going for second TC, which again, you know, is pretty nice for French. They can get a knight in there, try to kill a couple of villagers. And I would say a lot of this matchup goes down to the first 1 or 2 knights and how much they can do. If Abbasid manages to get a second TC going with no disruption, I would say that is really, really good position for Abbasid. And that French is slowly becoming more and more behind and they have to kind of do something. But on the other side, if French player manages to kill a villager or 2, delays the Abbasid second TC, then the game is kind of completely shifted the other way around.
Looking at the base of LucifroN here, he's got his berries exposed and his stone exposed. So as you said, that first couple of knights could be extremely impactful because it might be possible to deny the stone income here from LucifroN, or potentially the berries as well. In general, LucifroN's front is super open. He's got both of his wood lines behind his town center, but everything else is just exposed at the front. Whereas for Kaio, he's got a fairly decent map over here, berries at the back, 2 forests up front as well, and his gold, while it's tiny bit exposed, it's at least sheltered from the right and the left by those forests.
Yeah, so I would say, I don't know if you should call him Tok or Keo. I guess whatever. Anyway, I think Keo definitely has a better spawn. Like, he also has 2 golds in the back, 2 deer packs in the back. Like you said, his berries are in the back. His wood is in the front, which doesn't really matter. Like, you're not going to see a game where French is getting so hard pressured on the wood early on. And yeah, like you pointed out, the stone for LucifroN, both of them are in the front. So what LucifroN needs to do is actually, if he's going for second TC, he needs to mine that second, or mine enough stone for second TC really fast before the knight arrives. Because if the knight arrives before that, he's going to have a lot of issues getting the stone needed. And this is the delay that I was talking about that French player needs to do in order to kind of get ahead in the game. And again, like you mentioned, the berries are also not in the great spot all the way in front. So he's going to have to try to manage this and make sure he defends it properly.
So indeed, a lot will depend on those first couple of knights here for Kaio, as the economy wing is coming in for LucifroN, no surprise there. And on the other side for Kaio, he's dropping the School of Cavalry. Just standard approach over here. He's only building that with 3 villagers, which means that he isn't going to have those knights out super fast. He's also chopping wood, so that's a sign that he wants to go for early archeries as well. Whereas on the other side, as you said, if LucifroN wants to go for that second TC, he needs to start mining stone. But that's not something that we are seeing from him, so he might just go for a 1 town center play over here, open with spears and archers, and maybe delay that second town center.
If LucifroN is doing, I actually don't know how people do the Abbasid build exactly, but if LucifroN is doing something similar to what I like to do, he will probably get 210 gold for fresh foodstuffs and 75 gold to upgrade a spearman, and then go stone. The problem with that is the stone is quite delayed, but you kind of need that gold to be able to expand. He's going for barracks first, so he might get a couple of spearmen and then get the stone mining going. But I would say if you're playing Abbasid, you kind of need to get a second TC against French, because otherwise you're just going to lose out on worker production over time. So it is possible to play 1 TC, but I just think that double is much higher value.
Indeed, we'll have a couple of spearmen coming out, and it looks like he got up to 200 gold, and that is it. So he will have just enough, as you said, for fresh foodstuffs and the spearman upgrade, but instead of sending villagers to stone, he's sending them to wood. So for now, he's not going to start mining stone. Could this possibly be just a reaction to the fact that his stones are very open?
Yeah, I mean, it might be, because there's definitely a chance for it, and it would be a very good adjustment. He has 11 on wood, which can still mean he's going to go for TC, and maybe he might pull like 8 villagers on stone, or he might just do like archery ranges and be aggressive. That is up to him. But spears usually I feel like the way he's just positioning his stuff, okay, never mind. He's going for stables, so he's going to stay in 1 TC for now. This is one of those things that I mentioned. LucifroN doesn't have like a public account, so I don't know if he doesn't play double TC with Abbasid, or he just thinks maybe it's too risky against French. When I had a match against him, when this matchup actually happened, he did try to go for second TC. So maybe it is because the stones are exposed. We'll see what his plan is.
One thing that's a little surprising is that we're not seeing an archer range, because recently we have seen an uptick in the use of camel archers, and especially against the French, it could be a great unit to just debuff those knights, and that would make it much easier for LucifroN to defend against this one. He only has one defensive spearman, and there is our answer. There is going to be quite a lot of villagers sent out to stone. Will be spotted by Kaio just before those spears scare away the scout.
Yeah, so he's going for delayed second TC. He went for the horsemen as well to get it with spears. And now he's getting harassed at the bears, but he has spears in position. And even though he is defending, this is still very annoying for him to deal with. Because if you look now, like if the knight goes back into the berries, that's a villager potentially down. So he needs to be like on top of his game, or the villagers will be falling. And on the other side, Kia is going for archer range. We'll see if it's a double archer range, or he might go for early blacksmith. That's something that he needs to figure out how much he wants to commit into it.
He is going to have a second knight appearing on the battlefield. He doesn't have chivalry yet, and that first knight took a big beating because it just charged into a braced spearman. Soon, LucifroN was going to have to address the food issue as well, because he's depleting those berries quite fast. Kaio sees the fact that there is so many spearmen out there, so he needs to wait until his archers arrive. But LucifroN already has a horseman out there, so if LucifroN times this well, he could take down those archers with the horseman. Here comes the push, but the forces of LucifroN are just much better in numbers, and Kaio doesn't have the forces to fight this one by any means. Indeed, he's in full retreat mode.
Yeah, he should try kite and still snipe spearmen, because the horseman will catch up, so he will be forced to fight. It's just a matter of how many of the spearmen he can snipe to allow his knights to try and engage. But he will be losing some archers, which, goes down to scouting. He didn't really scout the base of LucifroN fully. He did not know the stables were there, so he's taking the beating for it.
And he's taking a big beating because, as you said, one of the questions is how many spearmen he can snipe. The answer is very simple, 0. There was also a fourth villager pulled up north over here. Maybe he tried to tower that stone mine, but the villager is going to be intercepted by the spearman. LucifroN's first casualty of the game is going to be his scout, but he already took down like 5 archers, and now he's pressuring the gold mines as well. Kaio is scrambling for a barracks to try and hold those off. So much value for those 3 horsemen here for LucifroN.
Yeah, and LucifroN's getting his second TC. I'm actually surprised he didn't decide to do second TC near berries or deer. I know in a way you don't want to put your second TC really far away, but it does offer really good protection for your villagers. Because if you look, his food is very, very far away. So they will be very exposed to night harassment. And even if he puts a couple of spears, it's still not 100% safe. So he decides to go near the gold. Maybe he wants to just take to castle fast and doesn't want his gold disrupted, but we'll see how he will manage his food, because the berries are about to expire.
Indeed, he's gonna have to shift focus towards either the hunt or other berries, but the other berries are very exposed, so he would have a tough time defending that. He has a fairly sizable force though. He's got 19 army, mostly spearmen and horsemen, but here come the knights once again from Kaio. He's still trying to hit those berries, but there is just enough spearmen to repel that. And LucifroN is going to start utilizing his mobility with the horsemen, and since Kaio is on double archer ranges, that could be problematic for him, because he wanted to commit a lot to archers, and now defending against those horsemen will be a little challenging.
Yeah, he gets in the gold, snipes 2 villagers actually, one about to go in but actually died in the animation process. So 2 villagers, I mean that's the damage you need, right? And these kinds of run-bys will only get worse and worse for LucifroN once he tries to get more food. But what Kaio needs to do is actually get these horsemen under control and make sure he doesn't take damage from them. Because he's already started doing damage to LucifroN, and he just kind of needs to keep doing that for now.
Speaking of damage, LucifroN comes into those hunters. Kaio decided to walk out for his hunt, and he defended that with 2 spearmen. Horsemen come in here, and now he has to run away. Same thing for those berries, and while there is 1 knight over there, you could easily kill 5-6 villagers over here for LucifroN if there is no spearman coming in. But Kaio has enough spears moving in, and as you said, now the knight numbers are increasing, and suddenly Kaio has the window to jump on those lumberjacks.
Yeah, and this is, again, he just made a move like 7-8 villagers. He didn't kill anything, but this is the type of harassment you need to do as French. And he just needs to do this the whole game and make sure his opponent is distracted and pulling workers left and right. And I think Kaio maybe forgot to upgrade his spearman. Because once he does that, the spearman will definitely be able to take care of the horseman super, super easily. So we do see Kaio going for the gold again. And LucifroN only has 2 spears, so definitely can kill some workers here.
And there is also going to be quite a lot of idle time here, and if you look at the resource bank of LucifroN, he's banking up food, he's got quite a lot of wood in the bank as well, but if he wants to think about Castle Age, the thing that he needs is gold, and by idling those villagers on the gold, Kaio can potentially delay that. Most of the horsemen from LucifroN got cleaned up, but he's sending some spears and archers forward, and he intercepts a big group of archers up north. That's a disaster for Kaio. Losing potentially 5 archers here would be an absolute heartbreaker.
Yeah, and Kaio never got chivalry, by the way, so his knights are not healing at all. So whatever damage they take is permanent damage for them. I feel like LucifroN needs to be careful. If Kaio micros this well, he can snipe off the spearmen, and he can come back with the knights that are across the map and just kind of mop down the whole army. And then that's not going to be a pretty picture for LucifroN, I would say. Like, he only has 3 spears here, so if Kaio comes back with the knights, it's going to be a really, really bad time for LucifroN.
But speaking of bad times, as you said, the spearmen were mispositioned here by Kaio, so he's going to lose a villager on the berries. And while he's slowly cleaning this one up, there's a big raid though from Kaio. That's a lot of villagers going down here. At least 4 or 5 villagers will be taken down by Kaio. Looks like LucifroN wasn't expecting those knights to charge in, and all that work that was done by the horsemen is nullified, or is it? Because both sides are losing quite a lot of villagers now to those cavalry raids.
Yeah, LucifroN actually stopped paying attention to his archers and lost the whole army near the berries. These horsemen are being like super, super annoying for Kaio right now. And the spears are still not upgraded. I really wish he would get that, because right now they're losing the battle to horsemen. He's still keeping the knights alive, by the way, and chivalry would be so good because they would get healed up completely, and he would just be able to continuously do the harassment.
He's going to lose one of those knights to the spearmen out there, still will disengage. But up north, LucifroN is just coming in with more and more horsemen, and he's slowly killing off those villagers on the hunt. And there's a lot of idle time now on Kaio's Eco, but the biggest problem for him is that he's 9 villagers behind now, losing all the knights on the front line to the spearmen. So suddenly, he's no longer pressuring the opponent here, and the opponent now has an untouched Abbasid boom of 2 town centers.
Yeah, and LucifroN actually had over 1,000 gold and no food. So the food struggle is real. He did get bears on the north, by the way, and I'm assuming he's just gonna go straight to castle. He does have a lot of units, and Kaio, does he have any knights? He has 1 knight up. Yeah, the losing of the knights really kind of sets him a little bit behind, because he would love to be able to still harass and move around there. And this kind of gives time to LucifroN to just go castle for free and then start upgrading his stuff.
And because those knights are very expensive, of course, he's also making spears, archers. Kaio is using up a lot of food in his bank, and that means that it's difficult for him to get to castle. And there is, once again, just 1 spearman defending those berry villagers, and it's still not upgraded. The upgrade is coming in just now. So there's a chance for LucifroN to fight this. Now the upgrade comes in, so he probably wants to avoid this fight and will just retreat. On the other side, though, that 1 knight is coming in and is trying to pick off a berry villager. The villager gets away, though. And as you said, LucifroN, he just clicked that button. He's on the way to Castle Age with the Courtier Wing. And it looks like he's going to play men-at-arms when he gets to Castle, going for 4 barracks. This is something that Kaposh did against LucifroN yesterday. And Kaposh went 4 barracks men-at-arms and ultimately ended up losing to crossbows because he was so committed towards the men-at-arms. Do you think 4 barracks is a little too excessive here?
I mean, if LucifroN reads well into this game, I'm not sure how much scouting he's gotten on Kaio's gold, but Kaio's mining gold with like 2, 3, 4 workers this whole time. So if he did see that, he should know that Kai is nowhere near castle. In that case, I don't mind just going mass men-at-arms. Out of all the civs, mass men-at-arms is probably least efficient, I would say, against French because they have the knights. But it's still good. He might try to just overwhelm his opponent. He might even try to, by the way, to go mass spear and just get a lot of siege going straight away.
Speaking of spears, he's going to take a fight up north against the knights of the opponent. Couple of villagers went down over here. It's at least 2 or 3 casualties, and potentially more, because Kaio is doing a beautiful job pulling away that spearman, and the final knight is able to take down quite a few villagers before going down to the spear, if it even goes down, but it does. Archers now being pulled to the north, and as you said, mass spearman is an option, especially because he just finished upgrading phalanx, so he's going to have very good upgrades on those spears upon reaching castle age.
Yeah, and we do see that LucifroN had 28 or 29 workers on wood. I think he has a little bit maybe too much on food. He needs more on gold if he does want to do the siege push. This is the most common strat with Abbasid, I would say. Like, you get to castle and you just mass whatever units you decide to go for, and you just push with siege straight away. But that's not something maybe that he wants to do. He is doing men-at-arms right now. And Kai on the other side obviously knows his opponent just hit castle, and he's putting a lot of workers in gold to try to catch up.
He's currently behind by 14 villagers, and his gold mine is still quite exposed, so the big problem for him right now is that not only is he behind in castle age timing, he is mining gold at the front, so LucifroN could target that very easily. Kaio, by the way, has added a second town center behind this one, so he will catch up on the villager department, but he also needs to catch up in the castle age. And look at those walls coming in from Kaio. He's setting in for a long game here, but the question is, does he have enough time to settle in for a long game here?
Yeah, that's gonna be painful. I gotta question the chivalry just coming in now. I think if he got that earlier, those first 4 knights that were roaming around would have gotten so much more damage. Because I think his micro with the knights was good, it's just that they never got healed, right? So eventually they will die. And now he's getting it, which is kind of the wrong time to get it because he's getting pushed, so he needs every unit he can get. And these mangonels will simply have no counter.
It's 53 army against 28 mass spearmen and archers coming in here, and Kaio just doesn't have the numbers. Those archers also upgrade to veterans, they open up against the villagers, and now Kaio is pushed off from the gold mine. He's on the way to Castle Age with the guild hall, but this might just come a little too late, because as you said, the mangonels are up here, men-at-arms, spearmen, and suddenly Kaio is cut off from the gold. The battering ram is also being made by LucifroN to start knocking down the buildings, and the mangonels can start slaying villagers on that wood line. Suddenly, Kaio's eco is looking like an absolute train wreck with all those mangonels shelling vills.
Yeah, he is getting a guild hall, but even if you reach castle, if it was reversed, if French was pushing and Abbasid was getting castle, it's like, oh, it's still fine because they can just produce springalds or mangonels, but what do you do as French here? Like, do you start upgrading? Do you keep producing army? Whatever you do, I feel like is just not enough. He should maybe start getting crossbows instantly, but he actually has no gold. He has 2 gold right now, and everything is just so delayed for him right now.
Indeed, 2 battering rams are in, and you see LucifroN just focusing down the town center. Those 3 knights are trying to do something here, but villagers being pulled to try and take down the mangonels. Beautiful micro there by LucifroN. He opens up against the archers with the mangonels, and it is just a massive slaughter here. Minimal casualties for LucifroN, and Kaio is getting his entire army wiped out by the mangonels, the archers. Not a single mangonel goes down, and Kaio taps out.
Yeah, LucifroN played it very safe with the second TC. I think you can probably get away with just going barracks into second TC, but he went the extra step. He played it super safe, went barracks into stables into second TC. Kaio didn't scout the stables, overcommitted with the initial archers. And once you lose like 6-7 archers, that is a huge chunk of your army to just go down because you didn't scout something. So from then on, LucifroN had a pretty good lead. Although there were a lot of villagers lost to the knights. So again, LucifroN's playing well, but it's not bulletproof, and in this case, it's not knight-proof, at least. So a lot of villagers were still lost, but overall, he did play better. So, GG's.
Yeah, precisely. The thing is that, as you said, late chivalry is something that haunted Kaio so much, and also the late hardened spearman upgrade. So his spearmen weren't great, and his knights weren't healing. if those upgrades come in a little faster, this could have been a slightly different game. But with that, LucifroN takes game number 1, and this means we're going to one of the home maps for Kaio. I do have them on the wrong side, I believe, though, because the home maps of LucifroN are Altai, King of the Hill, and Hillandale, and Kaio has Danube River, Boulder Bay, and Lipany. So, if you're Kaio, which of those 3 would you select?
I'm actually... Oh my god, I closed this profile earlier. Let me actually see, because on the AoE4 world, you can see which maps are his most played and what he prefers to play. Like, his most played civs are Rus, English, and HRE. So, and he has, like, actually only 5 games on that account with French. So I would actually probably go Boulder Bay and pick Rus. But LucifroN can also pick Rus, right? So, he might go for... I would definitely say he's going to pick Boulder Bay. That's what I would go for if I was him. Like, Boulder Bay is a very weird map where I feel like anything can happen, and, you know, one engagement on the water can end the game completely. So, that's something to kind of be aware of. And another thing that I wanted to say, that account that he's playing on has 0 games on Boulder Bay. Or sorry, he has 2 games on Boulder Bay, both losses. So you don't pick Boulder Bay if the only 2 games you've had are losses, which, you know, goes to the same point that he probably has another account that he's playing way, way more on.
Looks like the picks will be Holy Roman Empire mirrors, so we'll have to see what map we're actually playing here.
That's a Danube.
That's a Danube?
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
So let's go through that pick here, because that's an interesting talking point. We have 2 minutes until the game starts, because you have Hillandale, and oftentimes you see the HRE being the meta on Hillandale. What makes one player pick the HRE on Danube River, and what's your choice for Hillandale if you end up picking the HRE for Danube?
Well, Keo has Abbasid for Hillandale. I wonder what LucifroN's pick for Hillandale. I mean, maybe Chinese. But I mean, Chinese is a kick W right now. Stay away, guys. I'm actually surprised that they both went with HRE. Like, if one guy went HRE and then, like, okay, I'm going to mix it up on Hillandale. But LucifroN picking Hillandale and putting HRE on Danube is interesting. HRE is really good on Danube still. You know, probably equally as good as Hillandale, because you can boom to castle. Probably the easiest out of any map, and I feel like maybe it's even easier than on Hillandale to go fast castle because of that water eco, and it's a long map, and it's just hard to prevent your opponent from rushing castle. But like I said, because Hillandale is an open map, as in it's not played yet, I find it surprising that both of them picked HRE, and I kind of wonder what they would pick on Hillandale after.
Are you surprised that we're not seeing a single Delhi on Danube River, if it is indeed Danube River? Because Delhi used to be the meta on this map, but now that people are mostly volleying off those crossings, we're seeing less and this Delhi being used. Is this a surprise to you?
I mean, yes and no. I actually had this discussion recently on my stream. I feel like Delhi is not that good on hybrid maps as people think it is anymore. Because people figure out how to play against them a little bit, and then Delhi ships in Feudal are complete trash. So if you just don't lose, you know, your dock or fishing ships early on, you're going to be fine. But Delhi can actually put a lot of pressure on HRE early on by putting their own dock on the enemy side of the map. So I'm surprised that it's almost never played anymore on Danube River. But HRE just seems to be flavor of the month on that map. I feel like I play only HRE on that map these days.
With that being said, we're jumping into game number 2. Kaio versus LucifroN, the first home map of Kaio coming in here on Danube River. Spawning in on the north is LucifroN playing as the blue HRE. And down south, we have Kaio playing as the red HRE as well. Slightly different positions to spawn with, though. LucifroN spawning very close to the corner, whereas Kaio is much more open. This is something that we're seeing more and more on this map. What do you think about this? Is there a position that you would personally prefer to spawn in?
Probably Reds, to be honest. By the way, I just want to give a shout out to the organization for picking this seed. Look at the relics. I don't think he can get any more balanced than that. Like, that is... The 5th relic is literally right in the middle of the map at the bottom side. So both players will have 2 free relics and they're going to have to fight over the last one. Now, regarding the positions, I actually had a game when I played for N4C with Casva, but I was super close to the water. So if you look at LucifroN, I was probably where the first deer was, kind of close to the water, and I had almost no fishes in the water. So I asked for remake because, there were no fishes there, and it's a lot harder to boom. Meanwhile, on the other side, what Keo can do, he can actually go for the fishing in that, top right side of his own fishes and then just do a wall and then he's safe. He doesn't need to make any fighting ships. He can just chill there. So now if LucifroN decides to go for water, if he does wall off, he will only have limited amount of fish. So on the other side, his base is much more defendable, right? It's very hard to push into LucifroN's base. While on the other side, Keo's base is very, very open. It's going to be, how do you wall the south side of his base? It's just so extremely open. The horsemen can do a lot of harassment. Even, archers can go around and do some damage if they want to. And the good thing for him is that in return, he has access to more fish on the middle, and the middle is closer to him. So it's kind of like both have their positives and negatives. On the other side, Keo has to wall off the middle of the pathway so that LucifroN's ships cannot pass. So I personally prefer blue spawn, but both can work, and I do feel like you have to adjust your playstyle maybe a little bit depending which one you get.
LucifroN decided not to go for water. He's dropping the Archon Chapel right now. This Archon Chapel is not going to empower the Lumberjacks though, so those berry spots that spawned over there actually make it a little bad. Because if those berries weren't there, you could just place it in a way that it powers both the gold miners, the villagers on the TC, and even the lumberjacks. So, a bit of an unlucky berry spawn there for LucifroN. Whereas on the other side, it looks like we will have fishing eco going on for Kaio, which is a big investment at the beginning, but it is going to pay off quite fast. So, we'll have to see how the Castle Age timings line up. Feudal Age timing is definitely going to be better for LucifroN, though.
I gotta say, I really dislike LucifroN's chapel. I think that putting chapel next to gold is a big mistake, because you don't need gold as HRA, right? You have the relics, and if you want to rush fast castle, it's very easy to make another prelate and just get it on the gold. I would love if he put his chapel left from his wood so that it gathers deer, his sheep, berries, and wood. For me, that's the perfect chapel that he could do, and it would allow him to also have farms, much more space for farms. And I just feel that chapeling the gold is so limited in the long term, because if you manage to get the relics, you're just not going to be using that, right? And you're going to get a lot more value from getting the deer, because the real problem when rushing castle with HRE is the food, right? It's not the gold. So getting the food out as fast as you can and gathering it is the most important, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I 100% agree with you on that one. Looks like we'll have cross-volling coming in here for Kaio, and on the other side, LucifroN just wants to vol that central area. He doesn't want to get surprised by any enemies coming through. Kaio just now going up to Feudal Age, and talking about that Archon Chapel spot, he doesn't have a lucky map spawn with this, because he really can't empower his berries or his hunt alongside his wood and town center, so he probably plays the best he could, but it's still far from ideal. If he were using this wood line on the north, then an Archon Chapel close to that stone would have been way better, but of course he started off with this wood line, so it's a little too late to switch now.
Yeah, not the greatest spawn for him, I would say. By the way, Keo has no idea that LucifroN is not having fishing, by the way. If you look at his vision, he never scouted. So he's making this wall in the middle without realizing that LucifroN doesn't have a dock. And he really, really needs to... he saw the feudal timing, right? So he should know that LucifroN doesn't have fishing, because it's impossible to reach 430 feudal while having fishing. So that should be a tell for him, that LucifroN is without a dock. Maybe he worries that LucifroN is going to make a dock and make a galley, I'm not sure. And we do see this villager from LucifroN going on an adventure.
And that villager will be spotted, though. This could be a key moment in the game. Kaio spotting that will. We will never know what this villager wanted to do here. But the reality is that LucifroN's gonna have to pull it back, and it looks like he's trying to wall off this central area with like a V-shaped wall, so that it forms an arrow together with those red walls. It looks like he just wants to wall off that central area and sort of just secure the land crossings. He doesn't really care about ships, he cares about land units passing over there.
I wonder what, I'm trying to think, what's the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's on his mind. There is an opening still on that wall, by the way. Maybe he wants to save this villager. That's something I can think about. Like, if he now runs past that unfinished wall section, the central part, and then quickly just right-clicks it, then he might be able to escape from the scout. But it looks like he doesn't care.
If he wanted to wall, he can just wall off left from where the wall is. Like, just wall off his whole side of the map. Because this just walls off the middle, which he's already walled on his top side, so I'm not really sure. Because there's no relics there either, right? So it's not like he's preventing the relics. But interesting either way. There is a prelate going, and he's going for that farthest relic, which is of course the correct move. Oh, but he gets spotted. That is really, really bad for him.
That's really bad, and as you said, that's the furthest away relic, so the scout has a lot of time to kill it. The other prelate is going to focus down the relic closest to the base of LucifroN. Kaio has 2 pretty much guaranteed relics behind his base, but obviously he wants to grab that third one. He's dropping a stable, so he will have a chance to potentially get a horseman out and try to delay that prelate. On the way to Castle Age is LucifroN, and so is Kaio. So Kaio rushing that Ragnids up with 16, he's pretty much going to have a comparable time to his opponent. And he, of course, has the fishing eco, so his eco is a lot better right now.
Yeah, and that is why, kids, you go for the fishing. He pulled off the scout. I definitely feel like he could have gotten that prelate. If he had like an earlier stable, he could have gotten the horseman. And I gotta wonder, though, even with LucifroN getting 3 relics, is this really worth it? Because Kaio has 9 fishing ships. Like, that is a lot of economy. That is not something to be like, oh, he's ahead on food a bit. Like, that is a lot of economy ahead. And yes, he will get the 3rd relic, but that will only come into play if the game goes for like 20-30 minutes more. But Kaio has such an advantage to go Imperial right now, where for LucifroN is going to be extremely hard because you can't go Imperial off of berries, and that is the only food option he has under his chapel right now.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the gold is going to be there for LucifroN, but Imperial Age is very food heavy, and if Kaio can beat his opponent to Imperial, then suddenly that villager printer is just going to go crazy, and he could build like a 20-30 villagers lead in just a couple of minutes. To me, it seems like Kaio wasn't really aware of the relic locations, though. If you look at his scouting, he's just now scouting the other side of the river. He has some unknown spots or unscouted spots on the south, so it's possible that Kaio didn't even realize that he has to sort of race for that middle relic. Maybe he thought that there is a couple more relics on his side.
Yeah, I'm very interested by LucifroN's gameplay, though. He's going for barracks and he's going for spears. Now, obviously this says I want to play defensive, right? And Kaio is going for a knight or 2. But he's not overcommitting. So it seems that both players want to get to Imperial. I just think that LucifroN will be the 2nd place to Imperial. And again, yes, he has the 3rd relic, which is great. But the fishing, again, I mean, how many fishing boats is this? 11. Like, that is insane amounts of economy.
And especially if Kaio is able to secure and keep that sacred site under his control, that relic advantage isn't going to be as big as it could possibly be. And in theory, he could even try to cap the 2nd sacred site. Spearmen are being sent out to deal with that prelate, but by the time they decap that sacred site, Kaio is also going to get some resources from it. And as you said, in terms of resources, he's probably going to be faster to Imperial, but somewhat surprisingly, not that much faster, especially if LucifroN gets a market up and buys some food, which he does. I think the Imperial Age times will be pretty even.
Yeah, I mean, right now, what is the worker count? Oh, God. 43 versus 30. That is already a very, very, very big difference, I would say. Yeah, like, surprisingly, their palaces will be around the same time. And LucifroN has, like, a more stable army with spears. And on the other side, Keo has a couple of knights. He doesn't have too many. You know, he didn't overcommit. But he's going to have a couple to just threaten LucifroN. And LucifroN kind of made quite a bit of spears, right? He has around 7-8. So if Keo actually just switches to men-at-arms, those spears will, not have the greatest value, I would say.
Yeah, this is definitely a good situation for Kaio to be in. He's also trying to wall off those sacred sites. You see, he's capping the one in the middle, and he's trying to wall off the river side. Now, he tried to wall off that hill as well. He probably just wanted to trigger that sacred site victory to force his opponent to make a move. He picks off one villager on those walls up north as well. That's a nice value over there for that knight. He was overlooking that gold mine, seeing if LucifroN moves out for it. Now gets a beating on that knight, though, so he's gonna have to call off his forces. And as you said, against the spearman, the best response is the men-at-arms, and that's exactly what Kaio is working towards, dropping the barracks in the middle, and also grabbing the Castle Age men-at-arms upgrade, soon probably grabbing Elite. He actually starts with Elite over Heavy Maces or 200 weapons.
Yeah, he's probably expecting... Oh no, he didn't... Oh yeah, he's just getting the upgrade, right. I mean, he doesn't know what LucifroN is going for yet. It's kind of, expected to be men-at-arms. One thing I would love to see from Keo is Karak just made and sent on the other side, because that will force Spring Ults, and Spring Ults in this situation are very useless right now, right? There's nothing for them to snipe. So if he actually gets one Karak, it will cause so much issue for and problems for LucifroN to deal with on the other side. And he, with the economy lead, he can definitely manage to get one out and just cause some issues with it.
LucifroN is getting great value for those spearmen. He killed 2 villagers with it and also idled a couple more, so it's very painful to Kaio to deal with those spears at the bottom of his eco. But as you said, a single Karak could be massive, or demolition ships potentially. By having demos, you could control those choke points, and we have seen that in a lot of cases, that on this map, whoever has the water control has a big lead, because they can just secure the central area, go for that boar, go for the big stone mines that are in there. So, as you said, a Karak or demolition ships, or really anything that's just water presence, could be massive for Kaio here.
Oh my god, if you look at LucifroN's vision, he doesn't see that he has berries in the corner of the map. Oh. He actually doesn't know about those berries. So he's already transitioning to farms because he's running out of food. That's very unfortunate for him.
That's very sad. At some point he might bump into that and he's gonna be like, oh shoot.
Yeah, so, see, this is, even though they had similar Imperial times, this is where you start seeing the advantages happen, right? LucifroN has to go farms. He's out of food. If you look at Keo, he still has fishing. He still has first berries. He still has first deer. So all his focus is now on wood to be able to mass produce buildings. And he was already ahead on barracks. He's going double blacksmith because he can. University's getting elite army tactics. And, even though they had similar times, you can see now this lead that Kaio had started to kind of show in other ways than just landmark, timings. And again, LucifroN's going to have a hard time getting out of his base because he's kind of stuck, right, at the moment. And meanwhile, Keo has the whole map. He has barracks in the middle. He has the bottom side. He's recapturing the sacred side. And in order for LucifroN to get this bottom sacred side, he's going to need to go all the way around. Meanwhile, Keo's army will be right on the middle, ready to, just literally walk into his base and just kill everything.
And it's a little more complex than that for LucifroN, because he's going to bump into Voz if he wants to decap this sacred site at the bottom, because the Voz are complete. And as I said, the food eco is great for Kaio. He could just focus on the fishing, still has his hunt. And in fact, he sent a prelate to empower those villagers. And given the fact that the men-at-arms are a very food-heavy army composition, that's also going to help Kaio tremendously. Not a single ship coming out for him, though, as he's about to assault those middle Voz. Response is apparently a bombard from LucifroN, but as I said, he's actually teching into spears. It seems like he isn't even expecting men-at-arms.
Yeah, I'm looking at... what does LucifroN see? He sees nothing. Like, if you look at his vision, this is like a horror movie. He literally doesn't see anything. He has no idea what units he's fighting. He doesn't even know that the barracks are in the middle. Like, seeing this many barracks from your opponent in the middle is already a horror movie in itself.
And I wonder if he even knows about the dock at this point, because he really seems like he's just playing this as if he didn't even know how much behind he is when it comes to that economy. And it looks like he's adding a couple of Landsknechte. These guys have a ton of damage output against grouped up units, but they're just so fragile, and you gotta wonder if that's the right response against the men-at-arms. Men-at-arms now
Yeah.
jumping on that bombard. Villagers will be there to repair those, so a couple of men-at-arms here won't be able to deal with this one. Maybe an overextension here from Kaio. He has the mace upgrade, but not the two-handed weapons yet. Against the Landsknechte and the Spearman, you actually need the two-handed weapons over the maces. Bombard looks like it's going to survive for the time being, and now LucifroN knows that he's up against men-at-arms.
Yeah, and LucifroN, I mean, I would assume he's just gonna make like a death army and just slowly push out. And what Kyo should try and do is just hold the middle. He doesn't actually need to push in. He has the whole map, so he just needs to hold the middle, and he'll be ahead because he's controlling all the resources on the map. And LucifroN, if you think about it, the moment he runs out of wood, like, where is he going to go? He has to go all the way to the bottom left side of the map, so that already puts pressure on LucifroN to start moving on the map and do something.
And Kaio is controlling both Sacred Sites, so he started the Sacred Site victory at like 14-18. Now the Spearmen down south are about to break in, so there is technically a slight chance that this is going to get decapped indeed. Spearmen will just decap it, but as you said, Kaio can just play very defensive here and just hold the Sacred Sites at this point, because LucifroN is the one that has to make a move. Not a single combat ship out yet though. Really, just a couple of demolition ships would be so impactful against that army. Looks like we're seeing some crossbows being added as a response to the men-at-arms, but we will have some culverins added by Kaio, so he's prepared against that siege as well.
I like his response. He doesn't. I wouldn't, necessarily go for bombards as Kaio here. Just make culverins, just defend. Like I said, you have the map, right? So you just need to prevent LucifroN siege, and you can just chill in the middle of the map. And that culverin will two-shot the bombard, which is going to be very good if you... Oh, nope. Runs away in time.
Runs away. Nice reaction there by LucifroN. Maybe an overextension here from Kaio. He's going in very greedy to try and deal with that bombard, but he's sacrificing all his forces, and suddenly he's lacking numbers in the middle. He's getting those men-at-arms back on track once he's floating a ton of food, so he's got a lot of resources to work with, but maybe it was a bit of an overextension from him to try and pursue that bombard.
Yeah, he just needs to print men-at-arms right now. He doesn't have any units in queue, which is a little bit worrying, because he just needs to mass-produce units. Like, if you look at all these barracks, he can simply outproduce LucifroN at the moment, because if you look at the income tab, he has more food, about 500 more a minute, so just that will allow him to outproduce him by quite a bit, and should definitely look into dropping a castle. LucifroN is dropping a castle first, but if he drops a castle, he's going to reinforce his position and be able to snipe bombards with his culverins.
Speaking of which, he opens up against that bombard, and this time around, the bombard does not get away. Culverins are also being added by LucifroN here, but guess what? His Landsknechte are doing work, because all the infantry from Kaio is clumped up. There's a Mangonel out though, and with all those fragile Landsknechte, they will just get taken down by the Mangonel very easily. It's a race for the castles right now, and I think both of those keeps will go up here. Springald Towers also in action here for Kaio, so in the end, this is just going to be an even trade of armies, but Kaio saves his own culverin over the opponent's one, so suddenly him being able to pop out bombards right in front of that keep to destroy it could be immensely valuable.
Yeah, and like I said, LucifroN needed to make like a death army and slowly push. And even with Kaio, I feel like pre-engaging a little bit, maybe stacking too much against the AoE of the melee units. He still manages to hold, and he can still produce. He actually doesn't have gold. He needs to put a lot of villagers on the gold right now, because let's not forget, LucifroN does have the third relic, which is extremely good. So he just needs to make sure he has enough gold and just be able to simply outproduce his opponent. He's throwing down another keep on the left side just to secure. Could even go, by the way, and drop keep on the left side of the map where LucifroN's golds are, because LucifroN can't really prevent it right now. If he were to move his army there, he can simply lose the middle.
In the middle, we do have those castles trading shots. No bombardment placement on either of those, but you do have LucifroN coming in with Boiling Oil, so that's going to help quite a bit. Kaio isn't upgrading anything right now, and he also doesn't have a single bombard coming in to try and take that keep down. LucifroN has just one culverin out there as well, but we're seeing more and more archer ranges being dropped, so one has to wonder if hand cannoneers will appear on the battlefield soon.
Oh, there's the keep on the bottom side with 39 villagers making sure that thing is up.
Yep, that's the right
Oh,
move.
he's actually gonna go. He's actually gonna go mine stone with all the villagers. I would love if you drop keep where LucifroN's gold is. That would just be so uncomfortable for LucifroN, I think, to deal with.
And by capping that sacred site, he's once again going to trigger that sacred site countdown. And the reason why that's problematic for LucifroN is because LucifroN wasn't able to break out of his base at all, so suddenly he's put on a timer, and of course that's an extra 200 gold per minute for Kaio as well. First bombard out for Kaio, so he's going to open up against that keep. LucifroN's Quoverin is nearby, but there's a good chance that Kaio can do a lot of damage on that keep before that Quoverin comes in. First shot comes out, Quoverin is now moving up, and he's got 2, which means that they will just one-shot the one bombard out there.
Yeah, he has his Culverins ready to respond. The question is, does he actually see it coming? Yep, he does.
Yep.
So he's gonna trade. Trade Culverins, Bombard stays alive, and he's able to still put pressure. These villagers, I really hope that Kaio goes for the cast, for the keep on LucifroN's side. He has 30 workers on stone right now, by the way.
Yeah.
That is a lot of workers on stone.
He's going sort of an all-in style, just focus on the sacred sites at this point. He's pulling back his bombard as we speak because it got a beating from that Quoverin out there. The keep is being repaired by LucifroN, so he's holding out for the moment, and there's a second Quoverin out from LucifroN, so Kaio has to be careful with that bombard. Looks like he's not going to lose it, though. He has the chance to repair it. On the left side, he just depleted one of the big stone mines, and it looks like LucifroN is just stonewalling off himself. On the left, we also have Kaio with a stonewall, so that is just a stalemate. But that's horrible for LucifroN because he's on a timer. 21:02 is when the countdown started for the sacred sites.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the armies, I mean, this is a massive army from Kaio. He just needs to not engage under keep. No, you don't want to do that.
No, not under the boiling oil, not against the Landsknecht. This is the worst possible scenario here for Kaio. He's running into the area damage units. He's running into area damage infantry and the boiling oil. He's sacrificing everything he has to take down the bombards. He takes down one. Can he take down the second one? It looks like he's focusing on the Quoverins now, but he's sacrificing everything. The Mangonels are coming in though, so a lot of losses there for LucifroN as well, but you gotta wonder if this was worth it. Such a tremendous amount of army lost over here for Kaio, and he has the resources to replenish them, but now this gives a window for LucifroN to counterattack because LucifroN was able to save one of the bombards.
Yeah, and he doesn't have boiling oil himself. I mean, I feel like if there was one way to lose this game, that was it. There's no need for it. Like, he just needs to focus on Culverins and just snipe the siege, and that's it. Like, he doesn't have boiling oil. He has 2.8k stone, by the way. He needs to start throwing keeps on the middle to support. He is throwing keep on the left side, which I really like. But now, LucifroN can push the middle, and the problem is all his production is here. So if this keep falls, he's going to lose all the production buildings as well.
LucifroN is rushing up a keep himself with no less than 40 villagers on this one. He's realizing he's getting keep dropped, and he will just race up one himself, trying to stop the opponent's one, and Kaio was going to chicken out. He's calling it off. He's probably going to try and drop one a little further away. But behind this one, LucifroN was able to distract his opponent and the keep goes down. LucifroN still has 7 minutes to go until that sacred site victory. Another keep being dropped by Kaio. LucifroN does not see that though, so he's gonna have no idea about that keep coming up. But where is the army at for Kaio? I just don't seem to find it.
Yeah, he just doesn't. I mean, he has 6,000 food, and he's not producing men-at-arms anymore. And he's just getting completely AoE'd. He's stacking so much. Oh, God.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. At least he's now making his own Landsknecht. And the problem here for him is that he was trying to respond to that light infantry army with men-at-arms, but Quoverins just complement that army so well. And this unit composition for LucifroN, the light infantry Quoverins, seems to be pretty difficult to beat here for an HRE player. And LucifroN, the only way that he could potentially lose this game now is if he starts running out of wood, which could be a problem with that keep going up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is really bad. Like, the thing is, getting all this stone is nice, but if you have no army to defend your keep, it doesn't really matter, right? So, and now he's gonna have to rebuild all his barracks, which I'm not even sure if he's rebuilding them back in his base, but he just keeps taking, like, engagements that are just not favorable for him at all. and he just keeps running into LucifroN's army and just completely getting AoE down.
Yeah, the thing is that he didn't decide what he wanted to do. He wanted to attack, but also tried to control the sacred sites, and by the time he realized that he should just fall back, it's too late, and as I said, he has to rebuild his entire production, and that gives a window for LucifroN to neutralize the sacred site, which means that, at best, this is now an even game. There is the Karak that you were asking for, but it's a little too late. Imagine what a couple of demolition ships would have been able to do when LucifroN tried to cross the river before. But it wasn't there, and you see LucifroN is now capping the middle area with a keep himself. LucifroN is still on a timer though, because he's running out of space at home, so he suddenly is the one that needs to push into the base of Kaio. But Kaio, of course, is a lot of rebuilding to be done, and that Ragnitz Cathedral is also rather close to that crossing, so it's quite exposed as well.
Yeah, this is just not looking good. I mean, LucifroN has the Death Army going. He has keep in the middle. He completely took over the middle as well. So the keep on the left side, by the way, completed for Kaio, but he doesn't have a tower, so he doesn't have a vision. And he's actually getting walled in behind his villagers.
It's like, you're not trapped with me. It's like LucifroN is just walling him in, which means that about 30 villagers will be stranded there forever. There is the big crossing coming in here by LucifroN, though it looks like he's gonna have to blast through the middle because he tried to sandwich his units through in the north. Not a single demolition ship to sink these, so suddenly LucifroN marches into the base of Kaio. Kaio is at 22 army, LucifroN's at 76, and now you get the feel that there's a snowball coming here. 3 bombards, enough culverins to deal with any mangonels that's coming this way, and enough Landsknecht that just wipe out the entire army of Kaio. The Ragnitz Cathedral is within reach, the starting TC and even the Aachen Chapel alongside the Palace of Schwabia are within reach, so LucifroN could just go for landmarks at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no army. He's creating a lot of you know, mass infantry to try to deal with this. But I feel like even if he does defend, this is where, you know, LucifroN regained the map control. He does have the 3 relics. He does have the middle, so he kind of established himself in the middle. And even if LucifroN, I feel like, loses his whole army, it's going to be very hard for Kaio to actually come back and win this one.
Indeed, the bombards open up against those blacksmith and the Ragnitz Cathedral as well. There is the starting town center right next to it, and Kaio is trying to muster an army over here to try and hold this off, but you gotta wonder if he has enough to hold this. He's back to 62 armies, so there's a chance he's gonna be able to hold this one though. Indeed, he's starting to take a fight in this area, and it's sort of a last stand. His farming eco is burning. Down south, he's trying to drop a castle once again on the left side, as a couple of units here from LucifroN will try to stop that. LucifroN is still struggling for a little bit of a wood control, but now he's sending in Landsknecht to the left side, and Kaio's population isn't looking very convincing. A lot of idols. He has his military population back on track, though.
Yeah, he definitely does. If you look at the income, though, he doesn't have any gold, so he needs to get that under control ASAP. He's sending some workers. His food count dropped, or the income, because of the farm workers repairing the cathedral. So he's trying to get back into it, but LucifroN is already, got his army back up and is ready to push again.
And the fishing eco is gone as well, so now Kaio is also very reliant on that farming eco that, as you said, just got burned down to the ground. Ragnitz Cathedral is back on track, so relics will be pushed back in, but LucifroN is once again bringing the bombards. Culverins have a chance to open up against this one. This is a massive numbers advantage for Kaio, but once again, his units are so clumped up, and those Landsknecht are doing a tremendous amount of damage here for LucifroN without going down. This is one of those scenarios where numbers advantage is one thing, but LucifroN is still going to be able to do a lot because of that AoE damage. Bombards will be taken down, but mangonels are in as well for LucifroN. Good luck crossing against 4 mangonels out there, as well as a keep.
Yeah, he made 3 culverins, Kaio, so he'll be able to pick those off. But, again, LucifroN has 4 culverins, so it's still not looking good for him, and he did prevent wood mining on the left. LucifroN is losing some workers to that as well, but there's some wood on the middle he can take care of, and he can always buy some wood if needed.
Looks like a defensive... Actually, that's not a defensive keep, that's an offensive keep here by LucifroN. He's dropping a keep on the other side of the river, solidifying control over that area, and if that goes up, this is gonna be a very difficult defense for Kaio, because he will have a keep in his face, Quite a lot of gold miners are also on the right side here for Kaio, so if LucifroN finds that, that could be a disaster. On the left side, there's a bombard emplacement for LucifroN's keep, and now as well for Kaio's one, so they will just shoot each other for a long time until LucifroN brings in a bombard to take that down. Every single place, now LucifroN has the lead. Coverings, as he said, for Kaio will take down the first Mangonel, but the coverings of LucifroN will just take those down. So ultimately, the Mangonels will survive. Still 3 Mangonels on the battlefield, and this is a last hurrah, I think, from Kaio here.
Yeah, he's gonna try to get in there, but there's just... I mean, he's trying with the flank, which is a good idea, but there's gonna be 2 keeps next to each other, boiling oil, he's repairing the siege as well, so that's not gonna work out, and he's even losing the infantry at the front.
The infantry is just getting absolutely slaughtered because the Mangonels work well against Landsknechte. Boiling Oil, the Arrow Fire, those would just take down those low HP units really fast. Kaio is down to 120 population, only 16 army left, and his food and gold bank is also empty, so replenishing those units will be very difficult. And if the Regnitz Cathedral goes down once again, the gold income will just be cut off. Kaio is trying to assemble under force, but LucifroN, 100 eco, 100 army, perfectly balanced, as all things should be. And when you have a key being placed in between 3 of your 4 landmarks, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, he's making like a train out of the keeps right now, LucifroN is, so... Yeah, he's just solidifying, you know, he has so many workers in the front just building. He has 34 workers building a keep in the opponent's base, so... That's never a good look. Doesn't matter how far ahead or behind you are. He's trying to do his own keep, but it's kind of maybe a little bit too late for that.
Yeah, it's just a little too late for that, because as we discussed, you can start taking down those landmarks, but even if you don't, at this point the eco of Kaio is just falling apart. You see a lot of farming eco was situated around this area, and now it's gone. And if you look at Kaio's economy, he's got 17 idols out of the 100 vills, stuck at 120 population, no relics in the Regnitz Cathedral anymore, and without gold, it's also going to be difficult to add new coverings or bombards, and it looks like the keep of Kaio will also go down a lot faster than the one from LucifroN.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, this is, I don't think there's coming back from this. 100 army versus 20 right now, and he is cleaning up. Oh, never mind. He parked the bombard on the left side of the map next to the keep, and the keep is just gonna kill it. Never mind. I was gonna say he is clearing the left side as well, but yeah, I mean at this point we're just waiting for him to tap out. He is very, very dead, and there is not much he can do.
Indeed, there is just absolutely nothing that he can do. He lost 2 out of the 4 landmarks out here, and he's likely going to resign in a second. Indeed, he will. Kaio looked good in the first half of this game. Worked so well with the fishing eco, had the 2 sacred sites, but maybe that premature engagement, sending in like 40-minute arms to snipe 2 bombards, was a little bit overly ambitious.
Yeah, I'm going to change my prediction after that game to 4-0. I think if you lose that game, the other games cannot look good for you. He was so far ahead. Like, each fishing ship is like 2-3 workers on food. He had 13 fishing ships lead whole game. Like, that is insane, guys. He was also ahead on workers, like, in general, because his Fabio was faster. Yes, he was relic behind. He had the whole map, and the engagements were just... the reason why I'm changing it to 4-0, because it wasn't like one engagement, like, oh, oops, you know, I messed up. It was just kind of over and over having the wrong engagements and just kind of like attacking into keep with boiling oil, you know. It's something that you should never do. And I feel like if Kaio is that far ahead in that game and then couldn't close it out, I think it's just going to be very hard to win an even game.
I agree with that, to be honest. And if you look at the military graph, that just tells you how many bad engagements it took. Especially that last one was terrible, but that was just a desperation move at that point. The big thing was at around 20 minutes, where he just had about 70 army over 50, and he just, for whatever reason, decided to charge in. It probably would have been even better.
He was holding the middle. Yeah. Like, he was holding the middle. He killed Bombard, like 1 or 2 bombers with culverins. He was ahead on culverins. He had a keep. He had like 2k stone. And I even said, the only thing he needs to do is just stay here. And the only, like, the worst thing you can do is attack into him, and he literally just sent his army and lost it. Then I was like, well, I guess that's it.
And as you said, a couple of combat shifts would also have been helpful, especially at the early stages. Like, one Carrack to start shelling those buildings on the shoreline from LucifroN could have been immensely helpful. Ultimately, he added a Carrack, but it was a little too late. Not a single demolition ship, because even though they got nerfed, the demolition ships could still be powerful against like a big group of low HP infantry like Spears and the Landsknecht. So, he really didn't capitalize on his water control from a military perspective, and as you said, he just decided to attack when he really didn't need to.
Yeah, I mean, again, guys, he was so far ahead that he threw away whole army at the 20-minute mark, rebuilt, threw the army again, rebuilt, and he was still ahead, right? And then he threw the army again, and then it was enough for LucifroN to push through. Like, he was extremely, extremely far ahead. Like, that's one of those games where, like I said, if you lose that one, it does not look good for you for the rest of the matches.
I agree with that, because losing from a massively advantageous position like that is never a good sight. And this brings us to another home map of Kaio here. He's got Boulder Bay and Lipany to work with. As you said, Boulder Bay is not a map that he had any games played on in his primary account. So you gotta wonder how experienced he is, because one thing that we have to keep in mind is that in a best of 7, you have to play most of the maps out here. I will have to count the maps in the map pool, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 home maps to choose from, and 6 of them will be chosen. So part of the reason why Boulder Bay will get picked is because the amount of options there are limited. So it's possible Boulder Bay is sort of something that he's just stuck with instead of, picking it because he feels like he's good at it. He's probably like, what else can I pick? And what is the map that I'm the least bad at, so to say, instead of, having a very good confidence for that map.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I think it's gonna be a 4-0, but if there is a map to take a win, it is Boulder Bay, because it's Rus versus Rus. And I feel like whoever reaches Feudal faster and gets a Lodi attacking ship can win. Like, can just straight up get such a big advantage and win. But again, we saw that maybe an advantage will not be enough, so we'll see.
LucifroN's reaction just seemed to be a lot cleaner in this one so far. Like, everything he does makes sense, whereas for Kaio, he feels like he's got some good moves, but in some cases he's making bad decisions, and LucifroN is exploiting that so well. And your wish shall be granted. In comes the Rus Mirror, likely on Boulder Bay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best save by far, I think, on this map, so no reason not to go for it. The sad thing is it is always a mirror match, so I think that even if players don't play Rus too much, they definitely played it on this map, because, like I said, it's the most played civ by far, has the super high win rate, so they probably played a bunch of mirrors on this map already.
Exactly. And normally when we look at mirror matchups, oftentimes it is the more skilled player, which is probably LucifroN today, that has the advantage in those. But this is one of those matchups, as you said, where Kaio could actually just leverage the fact that this is a very snowbally mirror. So he just needs a tiny bit of advantage, and he might just be able to close out the game from that.
Yeah, like, I do agree that mirrors are usually decided by a better player, but this is the one mirror on this specific map where I feel like it can go either way. Because most of the mirrors, you kind of have to do a lot of good moves in order to win. But on this one, again, whoever reaches Feudal faster, like if LucifroN for some reason doesn't have his Feudal is 20, 30 seconds later, it might be a big, big problem for him. And it's kind of like one mistake that just snowballs so hard that it can result in losing the game.
Indeed, one mistake could be vital, but it also comes down to how clean your build order is, because ultimately the deciding factor between the players reaching Feudal Age slightly faster will be who has a slightly cleaner build order in Dark Age. Because you just get delayed by 5-10 seconds, you might already be in trouble on water.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm excited to see what they both have planned. And Yeah, like you said, it's the most important thing on this map is just how good your build is on this map specifically. Like how fast you can reach feudal. And some players might be good at ruse, but they don't know the proper way to play on this map. So that's something we'll have to wait and see.
With that being said, we're jumping into game number 3. Welcome to Border Bay. Spawning in on the right side, we'll have LucifroN playing as the blue Rus, and on the left side, also Rus for Kaio in red. A map where you have that pond sort of from the north and south direction, not something that you see every day. In most cases, it is usually right to left instead of top to bottom.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And the relics, I mean, again, the maps are seated. Looks very balanced. One relic on each side, one on the little island, and then 2 right on the middle there. Both players going for, both players going for dock, it seems. So nothing weird there. Although LucifroN has a dock much faster. Kaya's dock is very delayed for some reason.
Indeed, Kaio dropped the house at the beginning, and that is something that we're seeing more and more becoming an issue for certain players. As you see, the difference in the build orders is that LucifroN is dropping the dock first and then dropping the house, whereas on the other side, Kaio opens with the house, which is not something that he immediately needs, and that delays the dock a tiny bit.
Yeah, so his fishing ship is going to be up much faster, and yeah, LucifroN's build looks much better right now, at least.
Exactly.
And it might change soon, but yeah, it just looks much better. Like, he's going to have fishing ship while Kaio just started his.
The map is very even in the deep fish department, but LucifroN was able to place his dock a tiny bit closer to a deep fish compared to Kaio, so there is also a tiny bit of extra efficiency out there. 85 bounty for LucifroN though, 155 for Kaio, so he already has that first tier of bounty unlocked. It looks like we only have 1 scout for each of those players. LucifroN is just now starting to take down his own hunt over here. Neither of the players are likely going to get to tier 2 though, so it doesn't really matter for LucifroN that he's a little behind on the bounty right now, right?
Yeah, it should be more than fine. Like, if you just get your own deer here, pick up a couple of sheep, like, you'll be in a pretty good spot. This is one of the maps, by the way, that there is... I don't know if there's no wolves at all, but I think there's no wolves at all, actually.
Yeah, there's no wolves.
Yeah, so it's the only map that has no wolves, so sometimes, it can be hard to even reach a 250 mark. But if you get enough sheep, maybe you get a second deer pack going, or a third deer pack, one from your opponents, I mean. Maybe you can get it, but on this map, you don't want to go for second scout if you're rushing fast feudal, so... Yeah, both players are currently 155. Kaio has more sheep, but that will not push him to that 250 mark, so they're going to have to, like, kill a boar or something in order to get there.
Exactly. You will have to kill a boar, plus also take down some of your sheep. Speaking of sheep, LucifroN only has 2 that is still alive and a couple of carcasses underneath the TC. Kaio has a little less, and his scout is being trailed by 7, so it looks like Kaio has a head start collecting sheep. Not the most important thing ever, because of course your food eco is going to be focused on the fishing, but having some extra backups is never a bad thing. So having extra sheep is nothing to be disappointed about. Golden Gate coming in for Kaio with 9 vills. 9 vills as well for LucifroN, but he has about a 15-20 seconds head start, and we know what that means in a Rus matchup.
Yeah, and LucifroN has 5 fishing ships, Kaio has 4. So again, that start gave him the feudal a bit faster, and you're about to see disaster unfold in front of your eyes.
Will we see LucifroN starting to fish for... Oh, come on! I was like, there's no way that he's just going to start fishing in front of the opponent. It's like, what?
Yeah, because something that I didn't know until recently, because I didn't play Rus on hybrid maps until recently, but even when you're transforming your fishing ships, you're still fishing. So it's actually quite insane. Like, they don't stop fishing until they become attacking ships. So it's quite nice.
But can you drop off your fish? That's the big question, because I think if you can actually drop off the fish, that's great. But, you can just force drop the fish off from the Rus fishing boats as he converts them to combat vessels. And Kaio is just back inside his dock already. He's trying to save 2 combat vessels to the north, and it looks like he's going to have those converted as LucifroN is adding 1 attack ship from the dock now.
Yeah, LucifroN, he's already getting the attacks on the fishing boats before they get turned into attack. And that is just really, really bad right now.
The fishing boats die so fast to the combat vessels that if they start shooting at you while you're still converting, you're pretty much dead. We could see that one of those fishing ships went down to like 0 HP before it was converted, and now it's a 2 versus 1 for LucifroN.
Yeah, and there's also only 2 fishing boats remaining to convert for Kaio, so yeah, not a great look. LucifroN now has 3 attacking boats, and there's nothing for Kaio. He's about to have 1, but that will most likely not be enough.
He's trying to go for a defensive tower on his shoreline, but it's just a little too late at this point because LucifroN doesn't need to dig down this dock necessarily. He just needs to make sure that Kaio has no fishing eco, and he himself has it. In fact, the scout is going to see that tower. I wonder if the attack ships will try to kill the villagers here, because that is something that you could justify, especially only having 1 combat vessel and the fishing ship to fight against.
Yeah, I mean, this tower, like in this matchup, it just doesn't really do much. Like, yeah, you won't lose the dock, and that's great, but LucifroN can go for like triple dock now and just make mass units and be completely fine. And yeah, he's gonna, oh, he loses a villager, but he's gonna go for more docks now, and he's just gonna power up from there.
And indeed, Kaio is actually sending villagers to the shoreline to try and boost his food eco, because remember, he just lost his fish, so he needs to get some sort of food eco going that's quite population effective. On the other side, LucifroN still has 3 fishing ships working, and what's more important is that he's able to save his weak combat vessels, so he's barely losing any ships here, whereas Kaio keeps losing them because he's outnumbered, and because LucifroN has a ton of food to work with from the fishing eco, he can use the Golden Gate to sell that for gold.
Yeah, so we'll see what LucifroN decides to go from here. If he's gonna just focus on fishing eco, if he's gonna try to kill the docks, or he might even try to go fast castle and end the game. But yeah, if you're Kyo, it just doesn't look good right now. Even if he somehow manages to kill a ship, which should never happen, by the way, because LucifroN can just run away and heal up. So over time, LucifroN is just gonna have more and more attack ships against his opponent. So it's kind of slowly but surely delaying the inevitable.
And Kaio has nothing coming out for him on land, so like it's not like he is establishing a stable, massing knight to try and counterattack and just kill the eco. There's just nothing coming for him on land either. He's behind on water, and it's a dead even game on land. As you see, now with LucifroN having a second dock up, he's increasing his ship numbers quite rapidly. Second dock coming in here for Kaio, but that economy is just much weaker. 32 workers over 27 is the count right now.
LucifroN actually snuck in 2 more fishing ships, which I find, I mean, it's probably not risky, but he still didn't win the water, right? The opponent still has the water, but he decides to go for a little bit more economy. Which, you know, I think, again, he's ahead on attack ships, so he should be fine, but maybe just massing ships and just actually killing the docks would be a safer play to make sure your opponent doesn't actually get back into the game somehow.
Indeed, it is the case, although you can always convert your fishing ships into combat vessels if you need, so I get the feel that LucifroN right now is just realizing that he doesn't need more combat ships right now. There's the tower over there, he doesn't want to overcommit because towers do a lot of damage against ships, might as well just stay on the water, and he knows that he's got the fishing eco and the opponent doesn't, and one other thing that he has is a knight coming across the map, and we have to keep in mind that Kaio lost his scout to the aggression before, and because of that, he has no idea about that knight coming in, and that gold mine is wide open for killing.
Yeah, he's going for his own knights, but it's a little bit too late compared to LucifroN's. And yeah, once LucifroN gets on the gold, that's gonna be, you know, just more delayed, more behind, and more issues for him. And LucifroN is now converting a lot of the fishing ships as well, so he's just gonna go for it.
Kaio behind this one bought stone, by the way, so that's going to be an interesting talking point after this battle, with LucifroN just overpowering the opponent right now. And look at that, the moment he's sending the combat ships, he's also sending in a knight, so he wants to make sure that Kaio can't notice that his knight is killing the villagers off. The tower is going to be garrisoned though, so you gotta be careful here for LucifroN, because that tower is doing a ton of damage to ships, but LucifroN seems committed and he just wants to sink that navy as it is.
Yeah, he's just focused firing the ships, getting them all down. Like you said, the tower is doing a lot of damage, but, you know, the ships can just not move away, and he lost all the villagers on gold. By the way, he lost
Yep.
5 or 6 villagers. He's trying to build a TC, but he's about to start losing those as well. So just kind of looking worse and worse.
It is looking extremely horrible right now for him at this point. Knights are just coming in, and Kaio didn't notice those knights, and indeed he taps out. Basically, he sees the knights, and he's like, okay, I got this game lost. There's no way I'm coming back into this one. Ultimately, that was the magical thing in the move of LucifroN, just sending in the ships and the knights at the same time, because if you just send in the knights by themselves and you don't send in the ships, your opponent will just see that and react. But with that water fighting going on for Kaio, he didn't notice those knights killing his villagers, and the result was just an absolute massacre. So with that, rather easy win over here for LucifroN as well.
Yeah, and 3-0 up right now, doing pretty well for himself. We'll see. Well, actually, we won't see what the next map is, because the next map has to be Lipany, right?
Yep, it has to be Lipany.
And I would expect Kaio to pick English. And I would expect LucifroN to maybe go Mongols or French.
Ooh, Mongols are available. So we'll have to see if that is the case. But so far, very dominant from LucifroN. So we saw Kaio buying some stone for an extra town center. Do you think that this was part of his plan the whole time, like going into this game that, hey, I want to play water and add the second town center behind? Or was that just a reaction to the loss of the water?
Yeah, I think that was just a reaction, because if you actually gain water, full water control, you just want to kind of boom off of that. You don't need another TC, because you can just get basically all resources from the water. You can get food, wood, and gold. So I think he was just trying to, he realized he's not in a good spot, so he tried to kind of prolong the game, maybe keep himself in the game with that second TC. But yeah, that one night pretty much ended the game for him.
And I do have a second question to you, because this is something I never knew. So we talked about converting Lodya fishing boats to attack ships. As we all know, we don't have to drop off the food from the fishing ships at the docks. But what happens when a fishing ship is carrying, let's say, 25 food, and you convert it to a combat ship? Do you get the food, or is that lost?
I think you do get the food.
Because that's
like
a big
once
question.
once the conversion happens. I'm not actually 100% sure, but I would assume you do.
Yeah, me neither. That's why I'm asking, because that's a tricky thing. You can't just force drop the food. If you have 20 food on that fishing boat, you can't just right-click the drop it off, and then convert it. So if you're carrying food and you convert your combat ship or fishing ship into combat ship and you don't get the food, then fishing right before conversion doesn't make a ton of sense, actually. So I'm curious if that's the case or not, but it looks like that's just the thing that's unknown.
And if you're fishing from your opponent's dip fishing, I guess you don't care much, right? You're stealing his food anyway.
True. Absolutely true. And it's better to do something than nothing, as we do get indeed Lipany as the final map, or potentially final map, I should say. As things stand, likely final map, but maybe Kaio has something on his mind. Kaio has chosen the Abbasids, which is a bit of a surprise to me. On the other side, there is the Mongols pick for LucifroN. What do we feel about this matchup?
He is dead. If if he played two mirrors, did not go well, I would be very surprised if the first game he wins against Mongols, because, as we all know, Mongols are very good Civ. So this would be probably the, out of all three games, this would be the biggest surprise, I think, for him to win. It's going to be very, very difficult. I'm actually not sure how LucifroN plays Mongols. Like, I don't know if he plays it with tower rushing, or he just rushes castle, or maybe he stays feudal, but Mongols are just so versatile, and there's so many things that they can do and playstyles they can go for. While I feel that Abbasid is more linear, like you kind of know what to expect from Abbasid, so it's going to be much harder for an Abbasid player than Mongol player to play.
Yeah, I'm actually curious about that Abbasid pick here, because at this point, of course, we've seen the open map selection of LucifroN being the Abbasids as well, and maybe Kaio has something on his mind for Altai, King of the Hill, Hill and Dale. And maybe that's why he didn't want to pick something like Mongols or English or so over here. But at the end of the day, you're down 3-0, so you have to pick your best civ here. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to mess around with Abbasids because I'm saving up civs for game number 5.
Yeah, I mean that is true. The thing is, at the same time, like when you're down 3-0, right? You got to win the next 4. So technically, even if he, let's say, picked his best civ now, he still has to play Abbasid. So maybe he thinks that Abbasid is like the best chance on this map out of the other maps he has remaining. So, I mean, who knows? Like I said, we don't know what his best civ is, but I do think that it's going to be very hard against Mongols. And by the way, they both still have Delhi, so that's something to consider as well. And Kaio has Mongols and Delhi left over, so that's kind of interesting that he didn't pick either of those so far.
Yeah, as we said, we have limited information on his actual regular playstyle, so you gotta wonder how good he is with Delhi, because Delhi is powerful, but it's a civilization that you really have to know how to handle. So maybe part of the reason why he didn't pick it is because he feels like it's not a civilization he's confident in, or he's saving it up for a future game. One thing is sure, if he can somehow win this, he's gonna have some good civs to play around with. He will still have Mongols, he will still have Delhi, and on the other side, you will have Delhi for LucifroN still, but he won't have the Mongols.
Yeah, that's true. And that is true. But LucifroN still has some good civs, right? He has French, he has English, and I know LucifroN plays those. So, yeah, I think both players have their, still some of their good civs left over. But obviously, it's kind of last chance for Kaya to win this one, right? Like he literally needs to win this, or the match is over. And on the other side, like I said, LucifroN is probably happy with this one. He won 3 games, didn't even use the Mongols or Delhi yet, so he's kind of going into it probably pretty confident.
And with that being said, we have just 1 minute to go. As you said, beginning of the set, you said 4-2 for LucifroN, but you said you will adjust your ratings based on the first couple of games. And indeed, right now it very much looks like a 4-0, but we have seen stuff like this before. We have seen players leading 3-0 and then suddenly something just goes wrong and the entire thing collapses. But it's not looking great for Kaio right now, especially with Abbasids versus the Mongols. Not exactly sure what the Abbasids can do against such a good and versatile civilization like the Mongols.
Yeah, he's going to have to do a lot of scouting. And try to kind of react towards it. And this is also one of the matchups where spawns do matter. Again, I don't know if LucifroN likes to tower rush, but if the wood lines are in nice positions for, or in bad positions, I guess, for Kaio, then LucifroN can probably decide to just go for a tower rush and see if he can put pressure super early on.
And with that, we're jumping into game number 4. Final chance here for Kaio to turn this series around. Up north is LucifroN spawning in with the Mongols in blue, and to the south we're going to have Kaio playing as the red with the Abbasid dynasty. What do we see in the map? What do you think is going to be the situation with the map here between these two players? As you said, it's very important against Mongols. How do you feel about the maps here?
Well, first, the weirdest thing that I see is this triple stone so close to one another. I've never seen this. You can even put one mining camp and get both stones. That's pretty interesting. But I mean, if I'm LucifroN, I just slap a tower rush on this one. All the golds are in the front for Kaio. Not only that, the gold is next to the wood, which is the perfect thing that you can have as a Mongol player. So if he puts a tower, he denies gold and wood, and then a second tower in between the wood lines would deny the other wood as well. So this is probably a dream scenario for Mongol Tower Rush. And we already see that LucifroN is not going for that. He's not mining any wood because he doesn't need to for his gold, right? Because his gold is next to his TC. So he's sending everything on food and he's just going to go feudal super, super fast. So I guess LucifroN is not that kind of girl. He's not into tower rushing. But if this was me, spears would already be running across the map.
Well, indeed, it looks like he's just playing a fast feudal, and as you said, because the gold and the wood is right next to his DC, he doesn't need to make a gur, and that just accelerates his feudal age quite a bit. He's got his Obu quite exposed though, so he's gonna have to play a tiny bit more aggressive than usual. But as you said, for Kaio, his gold mines are just horribly open, and the bigger problem, I believe, is that not only are they all in the open field and in front, they are also sort of behind that forest, so it's not even possible to just sneak a couple of villagers out for those gold mines because they're relatively close and behind that forest. Like, the best backup option for Kaio if he loses that gold would be the one sort of in that southern corner where his scout is at right now.
Yeah, like if LucifroN puts one scout at that middle gold, he sees all three golds. So yeah, like you said, he can't even sneak. The good thing about Kaio, like, let's discuss that, is that he does have berries in the back, so his food is secure. Because you can never get a map where it's like gold is secure, wood is secure, food is secure. So you kind of have to play to what you have, right? You can also not get a spawn where everything is bad. So at least he has food in the back, so that's something to consider. Like maybe he should put a tower above his gold to make sure that's not harassed. But with no tower rush coming, I would say, the woodlands are in a good position, food is in a good position. The only thing you should be worried about is the gold. But that also depends on LucifroN, right? How he plays, if he's even going to be aggressive on the golds or not. Or he might just play, a longer game and more standard.
Tear Stone's coming in right now for LucifroN. He really isn't rushing Feudal Age, just building it with 2 villagers on the other side. And there's the House of Wisdom coming in with the economy wing. We haven't talked about the stone positions, but those are all up front as well for Kaio. So going for a second town center here would be extremely difficult because not only are they on the front, that first stone mine is very far away from the town center. So it is actually very difficult for him to play 2 town centers. And it is just a big question mark right now what he's planning to do. LucifroN is playing a longer game over here though. He's not gonna go super aggro. He's dropping a pasture right next to that Ovu.
Yeah, so professional scouts won't be happening for Mongols. That's something that kind of went out of meta. I would say for Mongols, they used to open like stables into professional scouts, but it's just not a thing anymore. People just go for super early pastures and kind of get their food eco that way. We do see a lot of villagers in the stone, so it will be that second TC, which is, I personally like. I think he just needs to scout what LucifroN is doing and kind of react according to that. He might be putting too many villagers. Maybe he's probably scared, for Khan to be annoying and do damage. So he probably just wants to put a lot of villagers, get the stone, and get out of there so he doesn't lose HP or villagers there.
Yeah, he played game number 1 where we had a similar situation, the Abbasid having the stone exposed, and he knows very well that he needs to mine that stone before the enemies come in. So at this point, he's just rushing that stone mine with 8. On the other side, though, LucifroN has spotted that stone mine, so LucifroN is fully aware of the second TC play coming in. And since he dropped the second pasture and we're not seeing a single production building dropped just yet, I wonder if this is going to be like a semi-fast castle approach over here and just go double man-at-arms production or double lancers. Kaio is in here with his scout, and there is going to be an archer range being dropped in the end by LucifroN. Kaio is going to spot that, and LucifroN will need a second villager to make this happen because that scout will harass that first villager building it.
I find archer range actually very interesting. Because I'm not... Like, unless he manages to prevent the second TC, where is he gonna try and do damage, right? Because everything will be covered by either TC or the second TC, and it's gonna be pretty difficult for archers to get in there. Oh, the villager goes down. Oh, but LucifroN might lose Khan. Oh, that is really bad. Oh, yeah, that is really bad.
Yep.
Oh, on the other side, Kaio loses both scouts to the TC as well.
Yeah, I was looking at that, I was like, villager goes down, what's happening? The villagers survive at 2 HP, so Kaio tried to dive in and snipe that villager. He probably knew that he was gonna lose 1 scout to that, but he wasn't able to kill the villagers, so he lost both scouts. And on the other side, LucifroN lost the Khan, but LucifroN at least was able to kill 1 villager. So one of the things that we'll have here for both players is that both of the players will be blind. None of them has a scouting unit out there, and you gotta wonder if either of them will just add a scout from the town center because they need some sort of vision. Second TC coming out here for Kaio, and that's going to be on the berries. Very nice defensive position. LucifroN is opening up with archers, and now we're seeing a barracks come out, so looks like we're gonna have a considerable amount of feudal age pressure coming in here with spears and archers.
Yeah, I would say, even though Kaio lost 2 scouts and a villager, I would say this is worse for LucifroN because The reason why his archers are here, he has no clue what the opponent is doing, right? He doesn't know if there's stables. He doesn't know anything, so he's just chilling with archers. But if you look, there's nothing on the other side. He can actually go and kill some villagers, try to snipe the woodline villagers, but he just doesn't know, right? So he's just standing back, and because he lost the con, he lost all the vision. And if he wanted to get some vision, he would need to make a scout, which technically you're killing your own villager then, right? So he's just kind of playing it passive for now. And I personally would prefer to be in Kai's position right now quite a bit.
Io opened up in an archer range, but then changed his mind and decided to go with the stable, so he's gonna have horsemen coming out, but the first horseman is yet to be created. And on the other side, you already have spears and archers moving in. Kaio abandoned his gold mine for the time being, and LucifroN, he hasn't spotted the stables just yet, but he will see them, or will he? He didn't go deep enough to see that stable just yet, and this could come as a very nasty surprise. LucifroN is one of the players that loves to play that double stable, double town center play from the Abyssids, so he should expect horsemen to a certain extent.
Yeah, he definitely is, because he opened with spearmen. He only has 2 right now, but this is what, I wonder, like, where do you find damage, right? Because this TC can just load up 10 villagers and can completely mop down his army. There is no blacksmith. Yeah, there's no blacksmith. He's adding another barracks. So I am not sure where he's going to try and do damage. Like, even if he goes to the south side, there's nothing there either. So the best thing LucifroN can do is deny the gold. But if Kaio actually goes and just sets up a tower... Yep, there it is. There's a tower. So sets up a tower, gets 4 more stone, and he can upgrade that tower. He's going to be in a really, really good position.
Now, given the fact that that tower goes up, of course, because the archers and spears are there, and now LucifroN knows about the horsemen, so he's going to send in a couple more spears. The villager gets picked off by the Khan, so it's not going to be possible to set that tower up there, and now the lumberjacks could be exposed. Kaio needs a couple more seconds to set up a couple more horsemen over here. He doesn't have the range defense upgrade, and now we're seeing an archer range being dropped against the spearmen. Second archer range is well behind, so looks like Kaio's gonna go very heavy on the feudal age department. He's only ahead by 3 villagers though, and look at LucifroN's resources. That's the power of Mongols. He stopped making army, and his already existing army is also very cheap. But because he's not making army, and he has the pastures being very effective, he didn't have to drop a Gur either. He's just able to get to Castle Age in the next 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I think because, this is the issue of losing scouts, right? Kaio has no clue that he's going castle, so Kaio is like double stables, double archer ranges. He's super committing to the army, but he probably thinks there's an all-in coming. He needs to like mine gold right now with like 10 workers. Otherwise, we see blacksmith coming up, and that blacksmith will 100% be going for improved siege engineering, and he's probably just gonna, start making siege straight away.
Yeah, the problem right now for Kaio is that he hasn't started mining gold, and his food is looking great. Like, based on that food income, he could click up to Castle Age in like a minute. But he just doesn't have any gold, and he's just a little too late to the party. Now he could intercept that army, which could give him a bit of a buffer. He also has a camel archer, which is pretty effective against all those spearmen. But at this point, the key thing is just getting the tower up, and he's only building that with 2, which means the tower isn't completed yet. Archers will just start focusing down the villagers, spearmen also getting some nice hits on those camels, and ultimately, while this fight could still be won here by Kaio, and it seems that he's going to push this force back, this is a big win for LucifroN, because once again he delays Kaio so much.
Yeah, and Kaio is aware now that LucifroN just got castle. No improved siege engineering. He's going for the... Oh, never mind. He just queued it up. If Kaio manages to wipe out this army, it's gonna buy him enough time, right? Because now LucifroN has no army to push with. There are men-at-arms, and he's producing them with stone as well. So if Kaio just retreats, gets the gold, and keeps making camel archers to try kill men-at-arms, he might be in a survivable position from where, let's see the worker count, it's 45 versus 38. It's pretty even because of the step readout, which, by the way, LucifroN is not using. He's still returning gold to his TC quite a bit, so that's something he needs to readjust. Oh, there we go. But yeah, he just needs to buy time, but he actually tries to go for a run with his units instead of trying to defend men-at-arms, so this might become a big, big issue.
Indeed, the man-at-arms start opening up against those villagers, and the Khan was very successful damaging many of those horsemen and camels coming in, and those first couple of men-at-arms will start forcing away the gold miners. Kaio was able to get the gold he needs for Castle Age, but suddenly you see men-at-arms rampaging those lumberjacks, and even if Kaio gets to Castle Age, his villager count will be a big question, because now that Castle Age Khan with 12 base damage and 300 HP is able to do a lot of damage on those vills, and he can just camp down that wood line. And on the other side, those horsemen and camel archers are basically doing nothing, so they've been trying to burn down that barracks, but on the other side, Kaio is just losing villagers left and right. He's down to 45, not a single lumberjack out there, and Kaio, not a single gold in the bank. Lumberjacks all idle, men-at-arms are pressuring the berry villagers, and his entire eco is just getting torn apart.
Yeah, I mean, if LucifroN was playing a different civ than Mongols, then counterattacking would be nice, but, you know, everything he has is under his TC, so there's nothing you can actually harass there. I think the best move he could have done is just kept making camel archers and just try to kind of kite versus men-at-arms and buy himself some time, but as is, they're just kind of rampaging through his economy right now.
And you see villagers going down left and right. That Khan is working so effectively. And Kaio has 1,300 food in the bank, but he's struggling to access wood and gold. And he's got a lot of berry villagers out there as well. This might be found by LucifroN. If he finds that, that's game over. Khan once again moving in on the berry villagers on the left side, and now with that Khan having a ton of damage output, it's much easier to catch up with these vills, and the villager count is just dropping so rapidly for Kaio. He's down to 45, and it is just getting worse and worse every second in this game.
Yeah, his castle's about to finish. He should just queue up knights straight away and crossbows, and I honestly feel like if he just defended and queue up a couple of more horsemen and camel archers, he would not have taken this much damage. And then, you know, going knights and crossbows now is a very effective way to deal with these men-at-arms. Like, he can clear them up very, very fast. But just the lost mining time that he's had is quite a bit, and it's quite a lot of damage taken. And the worker count is now equal, which benefits Mongols, of course, because of that step readout landmark.
And LucifroN found the berry villagers on the right side as well with that one man-at-arms, so now he's forcing off those villagers from the berries. Camel archers are now focusing down the Khan, but the Khan is going to be quite effective here, and there's virtually just no workers that are still working for Kaio. Like, if you see his income per minute, that's dropping every second, because every single villager he has is just idle. 0 on food, 9 on wood, and 5 on gold, but the villagers are just running for their lives, and now you see that blue line of units streaming across the map, just more and more man-at-arms coming in. As I said, Kaio needs to start adding knights and crossbows, but the question is, can he even afford that?
Yeah, I mean, he has 1,000 food, surprisingly, somehow. I guess the berry worker's doing work. He's still getting harassed on the south side. This is the point where LucifroN did a lot of damage, but he actually needs to kind of chill and recollect his army a little bit. Because while the damage he's doing is great, there are like 5 crossbows, 2 knights, and LucifroN can actually get mopped down now completely. And this is one of the benefits of the Abbasid, right? He kept producing villagers the whole time. So even though he lost a ton of villagers, he was double producing because they only cost 25 food. So he's still not in the worst spot. And LucifroN is now going for a ram, but with crossbows in play, this tower has the springald emplacement as well. I feel like if Kaio kites with his crossbows and just snipes the man-at-arms and stuff, it might be hard for LucifroN to break this.
It looks like LucifroN is going to switch back to Spearman, though he's realizing that against knights and crossbows, the Spearman work quite effectively. Once again, on the right side, quite a lot of harassment done. As you said, Kaio is still sitting on a ton of food, but he's struggling to access gold, and that's going to be a key factor very soon. Still, LucifroN, as he said, needs to chill a little bit and just needs to regroup, and it looks like he's going to try and push the far right side. First couple of knights coming in here from Kaio, though, to get a raid going. Looks like they won't be able to kill anything on the gold mine, though. But once again, because you garrison those villas, you have to reset them every time to be close to the step redoubt. As indeed, it looks like LucifroN just wants to find a different angle to attack, and there might even be an overchop on that forest very soon to push through.
Yeah, so one problem is, I don't know if he forgot, but Kaio has no blacksmith. So if these knights had like +2 armor against arrows, they would be extremely, extremely annoying. But even the TC was doing so much damage to them, and he actually loses one of them now. So LucifroN is pushing the bottom side, which if I'm Kaio, I don't mind it. You know, like he already moved out of there. Like yeah, his berries get denied, but he has berries still left over on the left side, so not the biggest deal. And I feel like in his situation, I would be pretty happy. You know, I'm having some breathing room. I still have gold right in front. There's 2 towers there. There's crossbows. So he should maybe consider adding Springolds or Mangonels and try to just play super defensive. He definitely needs more gold though.
As you said, Kaio already abandoned that stronghold on the right side. He's going to lose the buildings though, which will give resources to the Mongols players, so there is at least that for LucifroN. Kaio was able to sneak out some villagers to the north as well, unnoticed. But now LucifroN is bringing in Mangonels as well, and he's hiding that in the stealth forest, so Kaio might have a tough time spotting that, but he's got the tower nearby. Mangonel is about to open up on those gold miners, and now access to gold will be cut off because all the backup gold mines are now denied, and the rams are converging upon this location. Looks like man-at-arms will be added now by Kaio, realizing that he's up against an increasing amount of spearmen. But the army numbers are getting concerning for him. 14 army for Kaio, 41 for LucifroN.
Yeah, now he's going back to the bottom gold, and the funny thing is LucifroN won't know about it. I mean, he can probably guess it, right? But currently he doesn't know that they're going the south way. And Kaio needs Springolds, but he actually has no access to gold, right? So he's mining gold again, and he sends so many workers. Holy, 35 workers on gold. Honestly, he should just, you know, try to get some Springolds and Mangonels and defend. But LucifroN is reaching the amount of infantry that he can probably just overrun the siege anyway. So it's just going to be very hard for him to defend.
And he's doing that as we speak. The Khan also popped out. No, he didn't pop out the arrow yet. It is just the Yam speed network still affecting LucifroN's forces. I'm not exactly sure how that works right now because he's definitely outside the range of that tower. And he's running into the wood line as we speak. As you said, he can just start overrunning all those crossbows. The Mangonels are setting up. No battering rams though to take down the towers with, so it's just pure brute force numbers pushing the eco.
Yeah, and it just seems like he's adding more and more production buildings, but now he has no food, right? So he finally got the production buildings up, but then he has no food. And he's got a couple of men-at-arms queued up, but I think maybe crossbows here would be a better defense, but he's just struggling for resources quite a bit. Now he has enough resources for siege, but he has no units to build siege with, so he's kind of going from one problem to another.
Tower was being repaired by the villagers of Kaio, and that is going to allow him to keep it alive, and that Springgold in the tower is helping out so much, but it is just the idle time in Kaio's eco. The villager count is still dead even, but LucifroN still has 36 army on the battlefield. Kaio is down to 10. Crossbows will hold off the men-at-arms because most of the spearmen are gone, but there is going to be a second Mangonel added very soon. Down south, the men-at-arms of LucifroN found the villagers once again, so he's aware of how many villagers there are. And if he just sends like 5 or so men-at-arms over there, that could be an absolute disaster for Kaio as well.
Yeah, and LucifroN is sending more. Kaio is sending his own units. He needs to start building siege like right now. He's struggling for food, like I said, so he needs to shift a lot of his gold miners to the food. And otherwise, he's just going to get completely overrun because he's not producing any infantry right now.
And the timing is once again great here for LucifroN. He realized that Kaio just sent all his forces to the south to clean up that single man-at-arms, and that gives him a window to push with the man-at-arms and the Mangonels once again open up against the gold mine and the production buildings, because if you can take that production building group down, suddenly it's going to be impossible for Kaio to reinforce his army. He's making Springgolds all the way back, 3 Springgolds coming out as we speak, but you're just constantly losing buildings now. And how are you going to defend those Springgolds? Because that's going to be the big question. You only have about 6 crossbows to fight against that many men-at-arms.
Yeah, and he's going to start sniping. Well, he actually trades, never mind. He trades, but then the men-at-arms, like you said, they're just running in and can't really prevent it. So any trade that LucifroN takes now, even if it's a 1-for-1 trade, is way better for him.
Indeed, he managed to snap down one of the Springgolds, the other one still survives and is being repaired. Mangonel is going to take down the villagers nearby, and the men-at-arms should be able to finish it once the villagers are gone. And you just see the numbers advantage here for LucifroN. He's cleaning up the forces of Kaio at the back of his base, despite the fact that he's fighting against quite a few crossbowmen in there as well. It is still 37 army against 12, constantly 3 times the army for LucifroN, and we're getting to the stage where Kaio is just unable to access resources. He's got 7 on food only. Down south, there is Fry more men-at-arms pushing those villagers, and everywhere we look, Kaio's villagers are just idle.
Yeah, the crossbows are running everywhere. There's like men-at-arms everywhere. Like a couple of them just killing stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like just a rally point into opponent's base and killing everything. There's now men-at-arms at the woodlines, at the gold, at the food. I mean, golden H tier to activate it, so that's good. But if there's no workers working, it's kind of pointless. He's adding so many production buildings, which I find like. He can't even support 2 production buildings, but he just keeps adding more and more.
And he just losing villagers left and right.
I kind of like... He could have just walled off the bottom part, by the way, and it would have bought him a lot of time to, try to get his economy back up, but there's just men-at-arms everywhere, and it's just hard to deal with especially if you don't have any units.
And every single building that gets destroyed also gives resources for LucifroN, so that just adds to that snowball. He's slowly taking down those towers out there. Not a single ram is coming in, instead he's focusing on the mangonels, but his opponent is steadily at like 5 or 6 army. Now it's 72 eco versus 57, and that's not what you want to see if you're the Abbasid player. And just everywhere, all across the map, villagers are getting slain. The single men-at-arms on the left side on the berries. Down south, there's a battering ram with the men-at-arms pushing, and that's probably the final nail in the coffin for Kaio, because there's no way that he's gonna be able to keep these villagers alive. So many of them are so weak. And when they all go down, it's the end of the line for Kaio.
Yeah, there's 2 mangonels in his main base, 2 spring ults, and again, when that happens, he's building a lot of towers, and he's trying to get, like, upgrades on them. But at this point, the workers are just running. They're not even working anymore.
Exactly. There's more army for LucifroN than the entire population of Kaio. And with that, Kaio is going to tap out of this one. He had a difficult map to play with, but ultimately the problem here for him was that he just took Abbasids against the very powerful Mongols out there, and the Mongols exploited this matchup so well.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he lost the scouts, right? So he didn't know the castle was coming, and there's been a lot of, I would say, things that could have been done better. As much as I, think Mongols are, super strong, I don't think this was one of those where, he had a disadvantage because of Mongols. I think just not having scout in Age of Empires 4 is just so detrimental to your, ability to actually win the games. And you need to know what your opponent was doing, and he kind of overcommitted in feudal, didn't know that he was going castle, and just kind of, went really bad after that.
Yeah, exactly. Lack of vision is going to be troublesome, especially because if he had that scout, he would have noticed that there is just no more army coming towards him, and his opponent is going castle, and we can go back to the point where he tried to snipe that villager with those 2 scouts and ended up losing both, so... Despite the fact that he also killed the Khan of LucifroN, he also lost his own scouts, and from that point on, he was just playing blind. And as he said, by the time Castle Age came in, it was just a little too late. Once LucifroN regrouped, he was just able to overrun the opponent. You can see that increase in that military count very fast. It's just the fact that his eco was never harassed, and Kaio was just running for his life all across this game and just gradually got ground down. And with that, 4-0 for LucifroN, very dominant set over here for him. So, are you satisfied or are you confident in what you have seen from LucifroN? Because now he qualifies for N4C, he's gonna be among the 8 players, which also includes you. Do you think that LucifroN played to his potential or his full potential today? Or do you still think that there is a couple of things that he needs to clean up going into N4C?
I mean, like I said, he has that whole hidden account, and Vortex said last week that LucifroN and him are pretty much equal skill. And if that's the case, I don't mind playing either of the brothers, because I do think there's a lot of things to improve, I would say. It's just not smooth. Like, there's a difference between winning and kind of scraping by and winning. And I feel like, I would say the cleanest game was probably Rus versus Rus, right? It looked good. Like, I don't think he could have done anything better. I think he made all the right decisions. But all the other games, there was, even when he was ahead, it was kind of like it looked all over the place. The HRE build kind of weird. I don't know. I'm not sure. Where I feel like he should have lost just by build order, right? And we saw that huge advantage that Kaio had, but I'm not sure. Like, this is one of those things, where I might say like, oh, it's kind of not looking good, and then I lose 3-0. But from just me observing the games, I do think that there's a lot of holes in the play. I'll just say that.